I love it. That's the point of this networking. This was an ALC idea, is once a month they want us to network a little bit more. So thank you for doing that and getting to know people a little bit better, a little different level. I love it. Okay, the last 48 hours, yeah, because honestly, like, you know,
Like Stephanie talks to everybody at any meeting. It's really challenging.
she's like, never met you, so we can be friends. Okay. Watson, tell me about your new listing. Insert cricket Sam.
I'll go. Pat has a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Ogden that just fell out of contract for $245,000 for a condo. Wow. It's not FHA eligible loan, which is why we fell.
Can they
Yes, they said they tried to get spot approval and didn't, but I think it's like 48% rentals in there.
Fun fact, do you know that was one of the pieces that was part of the bill that they passed, is like the easier condo regulation. We do have a serious need for it, and lending is such an issue, so we're working on it, but it's not going to fit. For your conventional buyers, 245,000 to good investment property, right? Like, could you rent it? Sure.
Yeah, new AC. I mean, it's got a lot of updates. They've updated it in the last 3 years since they've been there too.
Okay, anybody who came tonight, I'm just gonna give a plug for me and Tim. Oh my gosh, we got such good instructors last night. I was like blown away. My mind was literally blown. It was such a good class. But one of the things we talked about is like, how are you helping your clients right now with a lot of equity in their home that maybe like, yes, they have equity, but equity is only good when you actually cash it in, right? So how are you helping your people? Like, do you know what their real estate goals are? They're thinking about being an investor someday. Maybe this is a conversation you have and talk to them about how they can get their money by pulling actually out money on their current home to buy something else. Should be having those conversations. What else?
Cause the down payment on that at 20% is not, it's like 50 grand.
Yeah.
Like,
No brainer, people. No brainer. Hey, what else? Or do we really not have any other listings? Oh,
Yeah, we do. We have a 4-bed, 2-bath, 1,507 square foot. And it's in Ogden, and it's gonna be priced at $389.
hey, sorry, 389 Ogden. And what else did you tell me?
4-bed, 2-bath,
Oh, wow, that's cheap, right? We're at Ogden.
and Fillmore.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. Alex and Stephanie, the Jesse. Here we go. There we go. We remember what we're doing. We remembered what we come to team meeting for. Wait up.
Our listing on Maryland Drive in Ogden. It's 4-bed, 2-bath, a little over 2,300 square feet. With a huge 3-car garage.
Huge.
What's the price?
$475.
There goes the whole.
You are in the line of fire. That you're in the splash zone.
We have our Bear Lake listing. It isn't an HOA. And they don't allow short-term rentals, unfortunately. But the HOA is only 117 a month. 4 beds, 4 baths. Just over 2,700 square feet.
What's the price on it?
$790.
Oh, did you tell me 4.4?
Yes.
I just have whatever I want. 790. When was the last time you had a board conversation with your people whose dream is to have a place in Bear Lake? Oh, then call Alex and Blake. Anything else?
Our bountiful listing is under contract, but it's a time clause, so if anyone still has somebody looking at bountiful.
Remind us what the details of that are.
4-bed, 2-bath, all single level. That one is listed at $590. And that one has the large office back.
Hard to find one with a detached large shop for under 600 guys.
Oh, and we do have a lot in Bear Lake too, that's right next to that house. How much is the lot? 75,000.
Is that the same HOA?
Yeah. Our sellers bought that lot, so technically we built there. And anyone who submits an offer with the right offer, they will sell the lot at a discount price. And the house becomes basically fully furnished.
Okay, I think Jesse, then Steph and Fabian.
I've got,
Okay, so you're.
I've got, Brigham Home coming up, it'll be, yeah, 5 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. I can't remember the square foot, I wanna say it's about 2,600 square feet. New carpet, it'll have brand new carpet, touched up paint, all new kitchen appliances. It's a fully electric house with solar panels. It's pretty interesting, low forest is what we're looking at right now.
Okay. Love it. Kaylee, do you want to do it while you share your right together?
Not my listing, but they want to purchase my listing. The townhomes up in Yorkshire Meadows in South Ogden. 323, the 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,900 square feet. And that will be going live on Tuesday of next
Those
It's-
are the gray townhomes.
They've got a bunch of different, all different colors
Yeah.
out there. It's an older one, they were
They
built
allow rentals, right?
1979,
It's owner occupied.
Yep.
And what was the square footage on that one? Cause those ones out there are pretty big. I think.
1920.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I have my cute Roy house. We just dropped it $5,000. It's so cute. And the backyard is a grandbaby or children fully love. Anyway, that one is 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 2,200 square feet. And it's at 430 with solar panels. So that one, we're see if we can get that assumed.
Solar
Yeah.
assumption needed.
Mm-hmm. Really cute house though.
I have a wonderful double wide in Layton.
You should find someone to make them the queen of their double white.
Right? Just pick it up and put it on my leg. So your neighbors will love it.
Neighbor.
3 bedrooms, 2 baths. New roof, it's painted, it's what it is, but
Is it
it's
too cute?
56. No, that one is not.
No.
No, that one needs a little elbow grease. So about, no, yes, 56.9 on that, so.
Nice, don't go
So,
available for.
there you go. There you go, a lot and a house for less than 150. There's another one coming up in Roy, and that is 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 2,600 square feet, 3-car garage. I bet you it's bigger than the other 3-car garage that we have in. That's how huge it is. And 0.4 acres. This one is cute, it's dated, it's grandma's house, so you may find some carpet in the bathrooms and, 1970s style, but very, yes, that for sure. And let's see if in them. That one is 425. Yes, 2,600 square feet in figure. And then there's one on East Layton coming up, and that is 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 3-car garage. It's 3,200 square feet, 0.4 acres. And that one is going to be around, we're thinking around 725. And
This
it's
one right now, if you get in early, it's name your own price. Right?
basically,
I do have another one.
I'll throw the mobile home. Let's go. That's it.
Steph, you have another one?
I do, in Elwood, it's coming up in the next.
Elwood,
Yeah. Right, it's on an acre or an acre just plus. It's a Rambler, newer Rambler, it's gorgeous. huge garage. Backyard has a driveway through the back. So you can turn it around, everything, that one has everything. That one's worth it.
How much is it?
Right around the 8s, but I don't know yet, 'cause I haven't talked to them, so somewhere in there.
Bring your own 8.
Bring your own eights.
Yes.
In Elwood, did anyone know, Gary Huckabee?
Mhm.
He's been a realtor for a really long time. So his family, I grew up in Bergen City, as you guys know. But they bought this old church and they converted it, like part of it was their house, but then they would do like teen dances, like in the front part. So every like once in a while I have to.
I have to. Have to, dang it.
It's like, okay, anyone else? Just Christie.
All right, so we just did a price improvement on our West Jordan condo, or townhome, sorry, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath. It does have a backyard area, which is really nice, $450 for that one. Super motivated sellers. We have,
This asterisk is motivated.
yeah, we have 3 coming up. Next week, the 75 acres in Monte Cristo will be hitting the market. We're just waiting for weather to do pictures. That one it's a buildable lot. So 75 acres buildable lot. It has a well with water rights and septic already installed and inspected. You just need to connect it to whatever you build it there.
Remind me, how much are you asking?
525. And then, we have one in Huntsville coming up. Probably just right after Memorial Day weekend. They're working hard to get it ready, but it'll probably be after Memorial Day weekend. That one is a Rambler on 0.75 acres, horse property.
You're gonna list it for my birthday.
Yes, for your birthday, happy birthday. I did it just for you. It's on the middle inlet where you, access, looks like literally like a 3-minute walk to find you. 6-bedroom, 3.5 bath. Rambler, and then,
That price is TBD.
that one is gonna be probably right around 9-ish. Yeah, but CBD, we'll know better. And then the last one is up in Ogden, above Ben Lomond, 4-bedroom, 2 bath. And that one will be around 385, and that should be right around Memorial Day weekend as well.
Okay. Anyone else?
Got one in West Layton. 4-bedroom, 2 bath, 3,700 square feet. 3-car garage, built in 2014, that would be 720.
Hi, okay, my East Layton is live, it's 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath, 3-car garage, just to give you, 3-car garage is way bigger. And it's only 525. Hey, so bring me all people.
Hey, anybody else? Katie.
It's land in East Layton and it's a 1/4 of an acre. And it's in a cul-de-sac. It's really cute.
Right?
265.
What? Did you tell me 4-bedroom?
No.
What did you say?
Just left.
Oh, it's land. I was like, what? Okay. Wow, sorry. Okay, this is a lot. My mind just got blown out. Okay, we good?
So. You can have them all.
Got it. Okay, today, Tech Bar. Bradley, what is Tech Bar exactly? Is that where we just get together and drink, talk about technology?
Yeah.
Perfect. You know what? I bet we're gonna have some people show up today. If you have any tech questions at all, just walk right into Bradley's office or the conference room where he's holding tech training with your laptop and say, hi, I need some help with my technology.
Yeah, so I get a lot of very vague text messages and questions saying like, Meta isn't working. I'd like to follow up with you guys about it. I don't get any responses. So if you want that resolved, it's time to do it.
Opportunity and no pressure. Spirit. Tonight, Ignite.
Fabian and Christy.
Ignite is Fabian and Christy, and it's starting a little earlier at 4:30. Let me just remind you about Ignite. If you have been to Ignite before, does that mean you can't come again?
Yes.
No, Fabian.
Be
Every
down.
time.
Out.
Has there ever been a time where you're just like, oh, gosh, I wish I could do things like Fabian or Christy? There's a wild opportunity to come and learn how they do what they do. I don't know what the topic is, but what I do know is it's gonna be incredible.
It's, capturing leads.
Capturing leads. What else more, what more could you ask for? Tomorrow, which is Wednesday, we're doing a Mother's Day brunch. I'm gonna have a slide for that, so we'll talk about that in a minute. And then Wednesday, we have Ignite as well, 5 to 7:30. Thursday, we have how to create a high quality email campaign with Bradley. And then Thursday, Ignite again. And then Ignite will start again the next week. We're pushing it out in 8 days. Mother's Day brunch, look how cute this graphic is. Give that little QR code a scan. It is gonna be super cute
Super.
and super fun. And you're all welcome to come. If you're not a mother, bring a mother if you want to, or if you just want to come celebrate the moms in our office, but I do need to know how many people are coming. So please sign up. And I promise you a couple things. Number one, it's gonna be amazing because we're gonna have fun like always. Number two, you're gonna leave with a little surprise. And number three, guess what? There's mom mimosas for anybody who would like to have one. Sponsored by Rusty Results Real Estate. So this is tomorrow, 10 to noon, don't miss it. Red Bash is coming up at next Thursday, Thursday, Thursday the 12th from 7 to 10. Your clients must RSVP because our head count is due by June 2nd. So this is just so that we can plan on pizza, drinks, whatever we need for your people. So make sure you're pushing out this story if you haven't yet. Conversational frameworks. You know what? I've always just wondered, like, how would I learn what to say to clients? And then it turns out there's actually something we have not every day, 3 days a week for you. Dalton, what do you want to say about it?
Kudos to those of you that have been coming.
Today was like kind of full
I've got
room.
like 8 to 10 people showing up today. That was exciting and excellent. And they've got a head start on the rest of you because, if I may.
Yes, please
Okay,
do. Do you want to
perfect.
stand up here and talk about it? Or just stand up in your
Very
seat?
briefly, yeah. Who would like $1,000? Quick show of hands. Okay, all you have to do is show up on the 25th of June and beat 15 other agents in a script battle. It's that easy. Right? Okay. The excitement is just palpable. If you can cut it with a knife. I know, exactly. All right, hey, with that excitement, I'll have you call back down. Let's see, June 25th.
Quiet in the seats, guys. I know you're excited.
The Bites and Insights at the end of June, we're gonna have the first of the preliminary rounds of a strip battle. I reached out to my vendors and got $1,000 pulled together. First place will take 500. I think we're gonna do 300, 150, and 50. So all the way down to fourth place gets paid. If that sounds like fun to you, let's get signed up. I have 16 spots open. It's gonna be like a March Madness kind of tournament thing. The Bites and Insights will actually be, we'll have a little panel on that as well, but basically we're gonna get through we're gonna get to the final four at Bites and Insights, and then we'll do a final four the following team meeting. It should be a lot of fun. It all is in good fun. And if you've ever put any time into learning what to say, so that way your conversations are purposeful, you can actually convert conversations into more money than just script battles, because like clients bring money with them when you do it, right?
Where do I send it?
Send me a text or an email for right now.
Okay. Text or
Right.
email for now, if you want to sign up. Dalton, do you want to just write your phone number up there?
Sure. We'll get a link out today in the email.
You want to
we have.
do a link then?
You can remember your phone number?
I am. I just about gave you my old Montana phone number. Some random person just like, who the hell, why script battles?
65783.
I've never been so nervous in my life.
That was a joke, Stephanie.
Oh,
I was like 8675309. I know, you were old enough to know that song.
I am.
I didn't know my kid's phone number. You think I have Dalton's number?
I was really shocked that you knew it.
No, guys. I have my phone number, my phone number.
Rusty and I like
and
this.
Jim's phone number, that's it. Nobody else, like, forget it. My
Ugh.
phone's gone, it's gone. Okay, so, about the script battle, Dalton's put a lot of work into it, but B, it's just fun. It's for fun, you guys. We're getting better having fun.
Yeah.
Remember what the whole freaking point of this year was? More fun, more money.
Yep.
I want to have more of the more fun part. So
And
let's
more
show
money,
up,
guys.
And there's
have
more
fun, and there's money involved. So it's more fun and more money. Dalton understood the assignment.
Send me a note even if you're just maybe interested and
If
and
you're
we'll get you
thinking
more
about
info.
it,
Yep,
just, and then we'll peer pressure you from there.
exactly.
If you're gonna sign up, do it before June 5th because pricing ends and it goes to $1,250. We've got commercial referrals for real estate agents. If you want to know more about a leg of business that you're probably just completely ignoring, if you're mainly in residential sales, come and show up on how to learn to have conversations about commercial referrals and how those clients will always come right back to you because it's with Corey and Rhonda. Did I skip something else? No? Okay. Remember that KW Cares May is KW Cares month. If you make a donation by scanning this QR code, screenshot it, send it to me. We're going to be doing a drawing at the end of the month for Mo Anderson's book. So this is for KW Cares, not locally. This is KW Cares internationally. Help celebrate Mo Anderson's month. We're trying to raise $888 per market center. You already saw that. Make all your calls in a TCPA friendly and compliant way. Otherwise you get sued and we don't, and we're sad for you, but we're not paying you bill. Okay.
On
Soon
that
as I
note,
miss any else.
we will mourn so deeply.
Broker drop you. Marcus, growth code with Green. Marcus Green is, he was a circus performer back in his day, but now he works in real estate, which is kind of the same.
It's kind of the thing. I bet you can guess what my circus act was. Bonus points.
No,
Trapeze.
wrong.
Bearded
Wow.
lady, bearded lady, yeah.
I was a bearded lady. This is before transitions were like a normal. Thank you guys for being here. This made me excited, a little nervous at first when we asked for listings and it was like quiet and I was like, oh boy. And then it picked up. So like you guys gave me a little bit of a heart attack. I was excited. So here's what I want to do today is I don't want to make a presentation. What I want to do is have a little bit of a conversation with you guys today. How many of you are Survivor fans? I love Survivor. It's so fun to watch with fans. One of the things they do in Survivor that I love are the little obstacle courses they do, and they mix them up so it's not always like the strong person wins. There's like some brain battles and things. But one of the things they do often is they have these segments of the race that they go through and they open a bag and there's a number. Then they do another segment of the race and then there's another number. Then they get to the end and they have to put those numbers in the right order to get a code to unlock a prize or whatever it is or win the race. And so I want you to think of that when we think about why I call this growth code with green, because I couldn't think of anything that ended with Marcus and had like M's in it. So I went growth code with green. But I feel like right now we've got, as agents, we have a lot of the numbers, but we may not be lining them up to the right order to really unlock your business. And we're seeing that right now is what you've done historically is still yielding results, but not the same results as it has in the past. And so part of that, one of the responses we could have to that is just business as usual. Keep doing what you're doing and let it yield a little bit lesser results and hope that it comes back to yield the same results. Or a better option would be to say, let me analyze how these numbers are lining up and see if it unlocks the lock a little bit easier for me and better serves the consumer. I guess there's a third option of you could just decide to do way more of the old regime to a lot more people, and then it will yield the same results. And number wise, but you'll have to have a lot more people you're serving that way. So the point I'm making here is I do think there is a unique code for each person in this room of who you are and what your database looks like to really unlock the power of you delivering value to your people. Because I want to talk through that a little bit today. So before we jump into the conversation, I'm curious to hear from you guys, if you were to, using that analogy to think kind of where your business is hanging up or where there's some friction in your business or where it's not yielding the same results that it used to, what would you guys identify as the number one issue or obstacle or problem in your business right now?
Conversation.
Okay, conversations. Is that
Not
having enough conversations or knowing what conversation to have?
Not having.
So not having enough conversations. And can we take a picture of this so I can use the board? Yeah.
I've got a picture.
Oh, you do?
Erase it.
Oh, good. So I'm gonna write some of these up. In fact, Rusty, would you mind coming and write for me, because your handwriting is so much better than mine?
You want people to be able to read it? Is that what we're saying?
I want to be able to read it. So conversations, creating more conversations, what else? Knowing what to say in the conversations, okay?
I don't want to write this.
Oh, whose flowers are these? I.
You can erase it. You already wrote that.
Okay, we got creating the conversation opportunity. We have what to say in the conversation. What else? Follow-up.
Follow-ups.
Okay, follow-up. So how do we follow up with them? Okay, what else? Is this, do we feel like this is, we identified what the problem is in your business? What about, let me go back to, let's flesh this out a little bit more. Creating conversations, is that creating conversations with people already in your database? Or are these new contacts? Both? Okay, so how many of you know the number of people in your database right now? Okay, is the number of people in your database yielding the same results as it did last year or 2 years ago? Why?
Money is more expensive.
Okay, so money's more expensive, the market conditions, so it's not necessarily something inside of your control, most of it's outside of your control, okay?
Debatable.
Okay, tell me more.
Social media is our biggest avenue, so I agree with Jesse, but it's also people, because we haven't needed to. That makes sense.
So are people interacting with your social stories as much as they used to, but it's not yielding, it's not converting to
I think
conversation?
it's just not as attainable for people to be like, yep, I'm gonna buy a house, or yep, I'm gonna move.
Okay,
They think it's unaffordable.
which goes back to your point of they may have an inkling to do something, but there's something keeping them from doing it, market conditions. Okay, if you remember, when I did the market update a few minutes ago, I think that's our list we're gonna run off of. They'll come up with something as soon as you sit down. If you remember, I in the market update a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago or so, I had shared what the statistic used to be for when you, the example I used, when you take your dog on a walk, how many houses you have to walk by for you to walk by a commission. It used to be that you'd only have to walk by about 19 houses and there was 2 commission sides there. Does anyone remember the number I shared in that meeting? It's up to 33. So now you have to walk by 33 houses. It's really almost double. Or another way to think about this is if you take the number in your database and you times it by 3%, it used to be a little over 6%, but if you take the number of your database and times it by 3%, there's 2 transactions for that number inside of your database, or 2 transaction sides, okay? So it's almost as you have to have the double the amount of people in your database, or you have to be really hyper-focused in your database to help people understand the market better than they currently do to trigger a move. So this, to me, comes down to value. So not only the value you provide, but how are we articulating value? So I want to share with you guys a couple of thoughts and see if it will spark a conversation for me. As I sat and thought about the conversation today and thought about the word value, or I guess before I tell you what came to my mind, when you think of your value as a real estate agent, if you had to articulate what that is in a couple words or sentences, what is your value? Okay, knowledge, I like that. Relationship, we're gonna talk about relationship. I think value and relationship collide a lot. So knowledge, expertise, what else? Experience and systems, so systematic result. Caring for your people, I love that. Christy?
Connections with
Okay, it's not funny that you chose the word connections with the name of your team, right? So like, who are your connections in your network? That's, even though they're working with you, they're working with your connections and team. I like all of that. As I sat and thought about value, I thought about, okay, where am I spending money personally? Because I'm choosing, just like I'm asking my clients to choose me and my value on a day-to-day basis, I take money out of my account and I pay for value. So I could use myself as an example to say, well, how am I making choices? Like, how do I choose how to apply my dollars for value? Because if we can understand that, we might be able to better understand how is a consumer going to choose us. And I think there's a little bit of conflict of how you're choosing to use your dollars to buy value But what you expect your clients to spend dollars on value isn't lining up with your own actions of how you're choosing to spend your dollars. Does that make sense? So in my mind, I thought about this in a couple different ways. I thought about two examples in my world that are currently getting my dollars, but they provide value to me in a completely different way. So one of them is Netflix. How many of you are Netflix subscribers? And one of them is my accountant, okay? So both of them get dollars out of my account. Do you think they get an equal number of dollars out of my account? Why? They're both giving me value. Why would one of them get more dollars than another one?
One brings more value to you.
Okay, one brings more value to me. So if I look at the value, I say I'm willing to take more of my hard-earned dollars, because the same dollar I give Netflix, I work just as hard for that dollar as I worked for the dollar I gave to the accountant. But I'm willing to give more of those dollars to the accountant because they provide a different value for me. So I looked at this and kind of came down to access and relationship. And so with Netflix, it's really, I have zero relationship with anyone in Netflix. I can't tell you one person that works there. I can't tell you I've ever called customer service and had a conversation with someone that made me feel special. I've got zero to say about a personal relationship with anyone at Netflix, yet they still get dollars every single month from me because I'm getting value not through a relationship. I'm getting value through access to information very easily. It's easy. It's harder for me to move away from that platform than it is for me just to continue to use it. And even though there might be a couple times that there's a pain in the butt where one of my favorite shows stops when I'm 6 seasons in and I no longer carry it, something like that, it's not enough for me to be like, I'm now mad at this relationship. I'm going to move it to some off unknown platform. Okay. On the other side of that, though, is my accountant. I count on them to save me literally tens of thousands of dollars a year. So I'm willing to trade money for that. But what would my expectations be of my accountant? Like, I've never had my accountant over to my house for dinner, but we do have a relationship. What does he know about me differently than if I were to go to like H&R Block for an hour and hire someone there? Okay, he knows the time. He has perspective of previous transactions and previous history and previous income and how we've chosen to tackle things historically. That's a big one. What else? Your goals. Right. Okay, he knows what my goals are, right? Not when I walk, like if I walked into H&R Block, which I would pay significantly less for that. In that moment, that guy's goal is how fast can I get through this to get you some element of return, and maybe we'll talk next year. My accountant's different, where we have this relationship of like, hey, I've already looked through what we did last year. This was the strategy we did. He'll sit down and say, based on your circumstances and your goals, here's the changes to the tax code this year. There's a lot deeper conversation going on there that doesn't even happen at tax time. It doesn't happen at the transaction, which for an accountant is April 15th. Well, really October for some of us, right? But in that moment would be when the transaction is happening, but what are all the value add, the conversations around it? So the question I would ask is, Netflix is ease, access, tech, accountant is trust, personalization, expertise. We can flesh that out a little bit more. But in the end, I fear that a lot of us as real estate professionals, we're wanting to get paid as high-level real estate agents. Yet from our consumer's perspective, we're delivering Netflix level values. Now, that might be a little too broad of a statement. Maybe it's somewhere falling in between. But in the end, what we're saying to I think what we're saying to some of our consumer in our database, somebody that may have done a transaction with you historically, is you're saying, I did such a great job for you 3.5 years ago or 5 years ago. You loved me at the end of that transaction. We had so much fun that you know you have access to me. You know I'm an expert. You know I have these things. So we're almost treating it like a Netflix-based relationship of you'll reach out to me when you're ready because you know who I am based on what you got from me historically, but what they're not getting from you today. Okay. So one of the things I want to think through as we're thinking through value is if we want to shift and say, and I guess there's two ways to do this. We're going to see more and more agents going this route of diminishing what they charge their client and offering more of a Netflix type value. Well, I'll tell you, it's easy for me to pay $14 a month for access to Netflix. But if they came back to me and said, well, I'm going to offer you a lot more, but now I want $1,000 a month or a couple $100 a month, I would hesitate to be like, wait a sec. Somebody can replicate what you do pretty easily. I'm not willing to pay more for the access to the information you have. That's what they're gonna start looking at with your business, is to say, well, if I really haven't got value from you recently and I'm coming up on a next transaction, I'm gonna look at my options. We know that the consumer is telling us they're more open to looking at their options than ever before. And to me, what that says is they are not getting enough value along the way. Like I would feel really bad in October when I actually end up filing my taxes to switch accountants at that time because of everything my accountant's done from November 1st of last year, all the way through April, all the way through, I would feel bad to make a move because he's working for me all that time, basically free of charge, knowing that I'm gonna work with him in October, okay? So let's talk a little bit about this. I'm gonna share some ideas with you and hopefully we'll spark some conversations. If any of you have a comment along the way, please chime in. So I want to talk about the three phases of a relationship loop. So you brought up the word relationship. I'm gonna kind of do this in two ways, like our relationship as a real estate agent to a consumer. I want to talk about these three phases, and then I want to break down actual relationship, human relationship for a minute. But I couldn't decide which order to do this in, but ultimately I landed in this three phase of a relationship of an agent to consumer, and then we'll dive deeper into like how do you solidify or build a relationship, referring back to these three phases. So if you had to take the three phases of a relationship of an agent to a consumer, what would you guess those are? I like that. I'm gonna hold on to that thought because we're gonna use that more for like how to deepen a relationship. I'm thinking more from in relation to a transaction. There's basically a before a transaction, there's during a transaction, and there's after a transaction. Okay. So as a real estate agent, there's anytime you've connected with someone, they're falling somewhere in that category. You're either doing a transaction with them, you either have met them and now you're waiting for the transaction to happen at some point, or you've done a transaction and you're hoping to nurture a relationship behind. Okay. So let's talk about these three phases for a second. And one thing that I think is important with these is I don't want you to think of them linearly of like, oh, there was an era of before, there was an era during, and there's an era after. What I want you to think of this as is if you had it written up like this, if really needs to be taped like this, where it becomes a cylinder. Does that make sense? Because if I met them before a transaction, took them through a transaction, and now I'm after a transaction, well, after a transaction really is just waiting until the next transaction, which is before the next transaction. So somewhere in there, after you've met them, before and after a transaction loop back into each other from a value standpoint. So here's what I want to start thinking through as we look at each of these phases. I want to get some feedback from you guys, is it's not about too often we approach like before a transaction, what should I be doing as a real estate agent? And we come up with this list of things to do from a book or something like that, where I think the consumer is now shifted from tell me what I want to help me feel something. They want to feel something along the way. So the only way we can create that experience or solve that problem for them is we got to start not with saying you should want this, is we need to start understanding what are you worried about? What is your question? Like where are you sitting mentally so that I can provide a solution for it? Other than me saying, I'm going to tell you what a solution is. So you can say, oh yeah, I would like that. That's the shift of how I'm seeing the consumer show up right now. So the question I want to think through with each one of these categories is, what is the client questioning or curious about or concerned about? And more importantly, how is that making them feel? So let's talk about before a transaction. So before a transaction, somewhere from the time you first met them, got referred to them, until a transaction goes on, let's climb into the psyche of one of your clients. What are they questioning? What are they thinking about? What are they concerned about? Market time. Okay, I love that you went first to not a real estate related issue, right? So it's like pay, how am I gonna pay my bills? Like, where's my money going? Okay, I love that. And I think we can wrap that into budget, money management, inflation, tariffs, all of these things people are talking about and worried about. Okay. And that's true for when we say before a transaction, that could be someone 2 weeks before a transaction. That could also be someone 2 years before a transaction. But what you just brought up is probably true for all of those people.
Like I'm giving
before.
you all the right answers, just not for what you're.
I'm just too scared to tell you when you give me a wrong answer. What do you say?
Market timing, market uncertainty.
I think this is a big one right now, is like a lot of the questions I get. Both from, as you guys know, like my two biggest market segments with my team is investor transactions and then tenant to buyer. Where we help a lot of tenants convert to buyers. It's interesting how different of a demographic those two are, but this question is coming from both of them, but from a different perspective. Market timing from where I need to put money to work, and market timing to, wait, if I buy now, am I buying at a high market and the market's gonna crash? Or if I buy now, are interest rates too high? Should I wait for interest rates to come down? Both of them are market timing questions, but come from completely different perspectives, okay? What else are they worried about?
And a lot of people are worried about the tariffs, and I don't know exactly enough to go on to that.
Okay, they're worried about tariffs, they're worried about politics, right? There's a lot of these questions going on. Overall, regardless of what they're feeling, or regardless of the source of the question, what is the overall feeling, do you think, of both people in your database? Okay, this was one of the first words that came to me, just this uncertain, right? It's like, I'm hesitant to do anything because I'm uncertain, right? Like, I've got a daughter that's about to get her driver's license. Who's taught someone how to drive before? It's terrifying. It's like, think about the scariest roller coaster. That feels way safer. It's terrifying, but it's like this uncertainty, and it's a lot of these little hesitations in movement, right? And over time, they're getting better at like reacting appropriately or early enough, other than quick reactions or uncertain, or I don't know what to do. I feel like the consumers are playing a lot like a brand new driver right now. Like, I don't know what to do, but I'm gonna go, I'm gonna stop, I'm gonna jerk, I'm gonna swerve, I'm gonna watch out for that, I'm gonna go way over here on the side of the road. They're all over the place because they're uncertain or they have this unease. So if they're feeling that way, and we can root it back to a lot of things, how do you, instead of overwhelming them with value or just telling them what they should feel, how do we shift our skill set from telling to getting on the same page and resonating with empathy with that feeling, and then helping them progress forward?
Just have to ask a bunch of clarifying questions.
To me, this is one of the biggest skill sets we should have, is not how to just ask questions, but how to ask really great, relevant questions, right? I love that. I saw your hand go up.
Showing them the numbers, see that it's not, the world's not falling apart. People still buying homes, people still selling homes, there's the numbers. You're sure that, yes, we see fluctuations, but that's not usual. It
Yeah.
happens in different cycles.
Yeah, I can tell you think like I do, because I'm a number nerd. Like, to me, somebody could tell me something, but I want to say, show me the numbers. And along those lines, one thing I would say is, this is a mistake I make a lot, because I am a numbers person, is I try to just say like, oh, you're ridiculous how you're thinking, just look at the numbers. Because I have to step before that, before I show them the numbers and get on the same page with them to say, oh, I can see how you're feeling. And a lot of times I got to open up my own emotions to say, oh, you know what, there's some element of I'm feeling the same way. And how I've resolved that for myself is these numbers, right? So I think I think this, you touched on something I think is really important, and I am a high driver, fast-paced person. I want to solve problems. We still have to solve the problem, but we have to have a human connection to allow us to solve the problem. I think that right there is one of the little combinations that we're like close to unlocking, or it's just like a little tight because we're going straight into fix mode instead of connection mode with a K.
Acknowledging they feel that way normal, other people feel the same way, and then story of people.
These are great points. You touched on a couple of really important pieces there, right? Is acknowledging one, right? Because the last thing someone wants to feel is stupid, right? Because if you don't acknowledge it, like, hey, I can see why you're feeling that way.
But they make it so easy.
Yeah. They do. They do. They do. They make it easy. But on the other side of that, my wife looks at me like I'm stupid sometimes, so I know what it feels like.
Yeah,
So I'm not- you can always get on the one-liner from problems.
Some clients right now who the husband is like extremely analytical. He wants to read every word of every contract and look over every single number to the decimal and
Yeah.
all of that. And then the wife is way on the emotional side, so you just have to come at it from both angles and
Yeah.
be prepared for that most of the time.
And neither of them are wrong.
Right.
They're both right. Your job is to handle both of their emotional needs, right? I love that.
I think you gotta figure out a way that they receive the information too, because just like your point earlier, if you're numbers driven and that helps bring you reassurance, but someone else is not, they just need the feel good of it, and you just come in with numbers, you're gonna be speaking here and they're receiving it here, and they're just being like, well, yeah, that's easy for you to say, because you're just breaking down the numbers.
Yeah.
Right? This is my home, or whatever it is. This is a big decision for me. You're just breaking down the numbers, making it sound so easy. So I think you really have to be
Multilingual.
multilingual and be able to speak to it in a way that they understand, because if Fabian just starts speaking to me in Spanish, although I'm 61 days strong, I'll understand pieces of it, but I'm not gonna understand all of it, right? So, but if we can connect. I'm doing Duolingo, I'm learning Espanol. Anyway,
You're in Spanish, right?
Yeah.
if I don't receive it, like, he can say whatever he wants, it could be the smartest thing in the world, it could be the exact right answer. But if I can't understand it because it's not connecting in a way that I need to hear it, it's not gonna matter what you say.
This is to me one of the biggest transitions in my career. And frankly, it was based on my personality, it used to be a lot easier, is people wanted me to come in and save them. They wanted me to come in and be the hero. But come in and I'm just gonna tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna fix the problem, and at the end of it, you're gonna think I'm the coolest guy ever. That's not how my clients want me to show up anymore. They want me to jump in the water with them. And then would be like, oh, how are we gonna figure this out? And then climb out of the waves together. It's different. It's a different world we live in. And if we're gonna show up in a really strong personality of like, I know what we're gonna do. I know how there's a time for that, but they gotta connect with you first. I think Rusty's hitting on, and actually you're brilliant at this, I think one of the biggest things to think through here is not just that I have the expertise to fix your problem, but first, I see you. I hear you. Like I'm connecting with you. I know where you're at. Now let me step into the role of helping.
Yeah.
Now that we're connected together and on the same mission and understand the same thing we're resolving, now let me start exercising my expertise.
Yeah,
I think you almost missed the important part of establishing trust when you just went to the next part.
Yeah.
If you don't know what they need, how can you help?
This is a big word and I love that we're making this conversation that I was gonna pull up when we start talking about the relationship. Is one of the words is trust. The question that I would ask is, if you made a list of everyone in your database, I would say, do they trust you? I think most of us, our initial reaction would say, oh yeah, they trust me. But when was the last piece of evidence of trust with that person? Because how many of you had a best friend in high school? I had a best friend in high school. The funny thing is that I graduated, I don't remember how many years ago, a long time ago, 20, almost 30 years ago. 20 something years ago, of that. If someone asked him today, who's your best friend? Guess who he would still say? Me. Right, but here's the funny thing is, we haven't seen each other probably in 4 years. We'll send each other a text once in a while and be like, hey bro, you doing good? Yeah, me too, hope you're well. Or congrats about your kid graduating or whatever. Like there's still that connection. But we were inseparable in high school. Like people knew if they saw Marcus, Matt was not far away. Not my brother Matt, another Matt. But here we are years and years later, still I run into some from high school, they'll ask me about Matt, but we're no longer that same connected. I trust him because of what we built historically, but realistically, he's not the first person I call if I'm on the side of the road with a flat tire. He was my best friend, but he's no longer that person because I've had 20 years of trust gap that I've built with other people. So I love this conversation of trust, is we can't just assume that your people trust you more than anybody else. So what they might trust you as a person. They might say, yeah, I would let you watch my kids, but I'm not ready to trust you with my next transaction. Why? Why is their trust changed from the minute they close their last transaction to their trust of hiring you for the next transaction?
They may have developed other trust relationships.
Okay, they're developing trust somewhere else. Okay, what else? Yep.
How
say since the changes to commission, it seems like there's a lot more folks that are deciding to go look for the seller's agent than in the past.
I think
to buy the home.
this is the first time in my career over the last couple years that the consumer has let media drive some of their thought process. Before, media's tried to interject themselves into our business before, but the fiduciary idea of a client to a consumer was so strong before that those media stories fell on deaf ears. Now, for the first time, it is interjecting distrust because the media has said, particularly because the lawsuit was won, regardless of what you think, that's history, it happened, is they're saying, oh, real estate agents, which you are one, real estate agents take advantage of the consumer. I need to be more careful this time. So I think this is a great point. So how do we overcome that? We can't wait until they need their next transaction and let that untrust fester.
Yeah, if you on your database, checking with your more regularly, with more substantive information. Just value of your house now.
Love it. So we're gonna dive into that. So is my point landing here a little bit to get you thinking about your database? So we're talking before the transaction, during the transaction. I really don't want to spend a lot of time on during the transaction. I've jotted down a couple things. We've hit on most of these. But I'm gonna come back to some of these, but I want to get past this point from the before is you're not just building a pipeline, you're building trust before they need you. So yes, we have to measure it in the pipeline and understand timing of people, but we got to quit saying like, oh, they're in my pipeline, they're in my database. Like they are. Yeah, they're in there, but what's the relationship? Going back to the word of the relationship with them. Are we building evidence of trust along the way? Yes.
And I'd say 90% of the time, you're not the only realtor that database works.
For sure.
There's 50, 40, there's other people, so you just gotta make sure you're that customer.
I think you should just assume every single person in your database, including your mom, is in another realtor's database. That it's that same realtor, guess what? Their business is down too because the market's down. And they're making a choice right now. Am I gonna double down and bring more value to the table? Or am I gonna wish for better days? The good news is majority of agents are gonna wish for better days. Talk about the good old days, but a handful of them are gonna get after it and decide like, what is my value? So there's 2 points with this is your people are up for grabs in your database right now. Are you going to grab them or somebody else? So that's the little bit of the scary news. The other good news is every other database here in Weber Davis County is also up for grabs. So who's gonna go build trust with them? I think it's gonna be this group. During the transaction, I don't want to talk a lot about this because the truth is, you guys crushed the transaction, but I want you to take this idea of relationship and trust into the transaction and make it an experience, not a transaction.
One thing I want to put on this
Yep.
is, so I can fall into this, is you do such a good job to make them feel like it's so seamless that they, at the end of the transaction, actually are like, did I really get a realtor?
Yeah.
That you're not articulating throughout the behind the scenes, all the whatever you're doing. That you have to do better about telling the story along the way. Of, hey, by the way, we just did this for you. Hey, by the way, this happened, and so that they understand what you do such a good job for them that they're like, wait, what did I need you? They don't understand what happened to make it that seamless for them.
I think that's such an important point because again, going back to how it used to be, that because it was so seamless and they never heard about the problems at the end of it, they're like, you crushed it. Now at the end of it, if it's seamless and there's no issues along the way, and they see the number on the settlement statement, they're like, wait, what? What did you even do? It's almost like I'm on a little bit of a pet peeve right now of when you go to the restaurants and they pre-build in like a 20% gratuity. When it used to be like great service was 15% meant you crushed it. Now like 18 is the minimum they even put on as a suggested tip. And then if you have a family of 6, it's like, oh, you got 6 people, you're paying this. It's like almost like the service I got, they already knew that gratuity is built in, right? So sometimes at the end of it, I'm like, you're building in this gratuity and you gave me less service because you knew exactly what you were going to get paid. Now that's not everybody, which I'll show you here in a minute. But I think this is a great point is this doesn't mean make the transaction hairy and sketchy along the way. But you should be letting them know like, hey, this issue came up. And it could have a negative impact on the transaction. But the good news is I've already got this in motion. Okay, good. This is why going to Dalton's conversations, by the way, I love to hear people are coming to conversations.
Yes.
It's not just
A lot of fun.
the learning to have great conversations is not just the conversation to get more people in your database. It's changing every single conversation you have with them with purpose along the way. Like every conversation I go into has a very specific preset objective. If I walk into a conversation without a preset objective, I've already lost the conversation. Okay, so I love this. Great point. Any other comments on this? Please.
I think setting expectations is a big one too, and kind of going back to finding a solution before there's a problem too. Like if you've been to Clayton's class, like we do our YouTube videos throughout the transaction, so they're still getting face-to-face interaction with us. And we've had people where they didn't get a video for the transaction and a video.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah, I love that. I do think that helps a lot. One of the things that I want to make sure we're covering in, whether it's a video connection or a face-to-face conversation along the way. So we're not just saying what we're doing, but we're again acknowledging what they're feeling in that moment. For example, when you get to the stage of the inspection's happening, is that a different feeling the consumer's feeling in that moment than the day you write the offer? Or the day your offer got accepted? Like it is an emotional roller coaster. It's important for you to acknowledge what are the emotions around that and not just like showing no emotion around the data. You've been through 1,000 inspections. This might be the second inspection they've ever gone through in their career. So for them, there's this big uneasy piece of like, okay, my life savings I'm gonna put into this. Like there's a cracked receptacle on the wall. Is the whole house broken because of this? Right? There's all this emotion around it. It's acknowledging the emotion. Saying, I see how you're feeling, or hey, your body language is telling me that you've got some nerves around the inspection coming up. Tell me about that. Like it's really getting good at connecting the feeling, the emotion around it, acknowledging it, and then moving on. But Kelly, I brushed over a point you made earlier that I think was not only acknowledgement, but one of the most powerful things you can do too is share examples of other people that have felt the same thing to build that confidence. Of hey, I was working with Mary and Joe Johnson a couple months ago. They actually had a lot of concern around the inspection because their dad's house, blah, 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 right? And then you can share the example of what they went through, and that gives the people a lot of like, oh, good, I'm okay to feel this way. Because people have feelings, but sometimes they hide them because they feel like they shouldn't feel that way, or they're scared to acknowledge to you that they feel that way.
Somebody put this down really concisely. I love it. So I'm starting to use it in study storytelling, but charts and stories. If you can speak both charts and stories, you can hit the whole disc profile. You know, obviously you got to be sensitive and skilled enough to know when to use charts versus when to use stories.
Yep.
But that's how you can just build rapport and trust like at a very rapid pace.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. I think you bring up a couple of important points there. One is disc profile. How many of you are very overly aware of how you're wired? Like either a disc profile, a KPA. When's the last time you read it? It's been a while. So one of the things that a lot of you came to my leadership unlocked course is one of the things that I did in there that was interesting is I went back and looked at my core values, went back and looked at my KPA, took a couple of personality assessments. It was interesting that my personality has evolved over the last couple of years. I think having kids has changed me to some element. And in some ways it's taken me off of what I considered my A game before. But in truth, it's actually just evolved me into a different A game. That's understanding who I am. I think that's important for you. When you said that, Dalton, you said it in a way of like making sure that you're delivering the value based on how they're wired. Understanding how people wired, I think, starts with better understanding who you are and how you're wired. Because sometimes I've been told once or twice, you may not believe this, that I'm a little intense. But if I know that I'm an intense person and I'm going into a conversation with a non-intense person, I've literally got to give myself a pep talk of like, settle the heck down, Marcus. Like go in it with softness and questions and tell me more about you. And like, Don't wave your hands around like you normally do when you're talking to people. Like, it's literally, you have to know who you are to better serve the people in your database. I love that. And to that, you say, conversations and charts. I think knowing how how they're wired is either conversations and charts or charts and conversations. But it's understanding the order of those is gonna change based on who you are and who they
How
are.
do you lead off? How do you close? All that stuff. Yep.
And even just matching the speed at which they're speaking, right? Because I tend to be a fast speaker, and honestly, sometimes when I'm talking to someone who's talking really slow, I have a hard time not being like, tell me faster, right? But like mirror and matching people too makes them feel that trust and safe and that you're meeting them on their level.
Totally. Love that. Great points. The thing I know from this conversation, these are all things we know. The truth of the matter is we're just not exercising it at a high enough level, or we're waiting for somebody else to set the table for us to exercise the skill set. That we have to invite people to the table to allow this skill set to evolve for ourselves. So, anyone ever been to Mama D's in Newport Beach? You've been there? I love this restaurant. One, I just love food, but it really is like a dining experience when you go there. Every time we go to Newport, this is one of my kids' favorite things to do. And the thing I love about it, and I know we're there for a couple hours, but there is a before, a during, and an after experience when I go to this restaurant. There's always a line. They don't take reservations. There's always a line out the door, a big waiting area out there. But one of the things the first time we went, and they do it every time, is they know it's uncomfortable to wait, and the people are gonna get frustrated. So they walk around with fresh made breadsticks to whet your appetite. They come out and be like, would you like a breadstick while you're waiting? Would you like one? And they create this experience beforehand. The minute you sit down with the menu, you get their vision statement, and on the backside of it is the Crazy Ones quote, which I really, really love. And so they have their whole vision statement. They're telling you before you look at the menu, the experience you have here is important to us. Not the waiter tells you, this is our menu, but nothing is off the table. You tell me what you want. Okay, so how clear are you when you show up? Are you already going into, I already know what you want me to tell you, so I'm going to get right into the value proposition instead of like really slowing down to say, hey, I know that you have me here as a real estate agent, and there are thousands of other real estate agents that have the same license. But before we get started, I want to tell you what sets me apart, or why this is important to me, or whatever it is leading off with your vision instead of just like an overly prepared, scripted presentation. And I love that they have a Steve Jobs quote on the back of their vision statement talking about the Crazy Ones. If you've ever read that, it's a good quote, but it's interesting. It has nothing to do with the restaurant business, but they embrace this. Their whole team knows it. Afterwards, they instead of saying like, can I bring you a to-go bag? They come get your plate, they take it back, they put it in the box, they write you a personalized message on the box. So it's the next day you're not arguing of whose is whose. It's like they write you a personalized message on it. It's just like a great experience the whole way across. The third phase is the after transaction. So the transaction may be over, but the household needs are just starting. To me, this is one of the biggest evolutions of our industry is we have to stop just thinking about people in our database, but we have to really start thinking about households under management. So a couple things I'm changing in my vernacular or the way I'm thinking is I'm getting away from thinking transactionally. I'm trying to get really into relational connection. And then also beyond the relational connection is saying that person is associated with a household. The household has needs from the day they buy it to the day they sell it. That could be, and we're seeing statistically, they're saying that most people are going to stay in their houses now between 9 to 12 years, where it used to be 5 to 7. Okay, people are going to stay in their houses longer. So for me to earn the right for the next transaction, if I have this much trust with them and I don't do a good job in between, and my trust is diminishing until the next transaction, the chances of repeat transactions are going to diminish for most people unless I look at the value beyond the transaction and say households under management. What do I mean by households under management?
The items like HVAC and plumbing and landscaping.
Okay, every single day, like I can make you a list. I could show you the list my wife has made me of things that need to be done in my house.
I bet that it's more you than her. Just saying.
No,
Not
no, it's
true.
wrong.
In my household, it's more my husband.
Well, she's gonna like maybe in the hint and then ends up on my list. That's how it gets done. But here's the point I'm making is, I see this as the evolution of our value going beyond the transaction, is actually taking control of the management of the household. And just so you guys know, you're going to hear more about this, because this is something that us and the leadership team are really putting our minds around. Is how do we systematically help you serve the home better? Like, what would it look like if you knew that their dishwasher was 11 years old now, or a brand that's going out of production of that dishwasher, and you called them to let them know? Like, now you're talking about, like, I know more about your house than you do, and I'm gonna keep you informed of what it should be done. Hey, my records show that you haven't switched your batteries and your smoke detector in this amount of time. Right? Those type of things is we need to start understanding. The recipe cards are great, but they know where to find the recipe. The truth is they can have your recipe card in your email, but nowadays, if they want a recipe, they're gonna go to YouTube or wherever their place is. They're not gonna go pull up your email for your meatloaf recipe. It's how do we look at the household under management and think about, and a way to think about this is start just tracking everything you're doing on your own home. It's springtime. All of us have springtime projects. Like, now you just start saying, how would I communicate this and bring value to my people of where they can get new mulch at a discount, things like that. Again, we'll start working through this. But to me, this is where we keep that trust bank account full, is we look at the household under management beyond the relationship. Okay? If you disappear after closing, don't be surprised when they disappear before the next one. Rusty, I have until what time?
You have until about 12:55-ish.
Has this sparked any thoughts for you?
Yeah.
Tell me what they are.
I think stop focusing just on the transaction and getting our checklist there and make that beautiful. Because that already is beautiful and I just want it way better, but we really need to focus on the outside, where we're bringing value there too.
I think this is a great point, because I think it's, the truth is could you make your system better of delivering value during a transaction? Yeah, but the effort that it would take to make that a little bit better, that same amount of effort given to somewhere else of building value and trust is going to create more business than just like, I know your clients love you, but just that little tweak inside your business could be good, but that same energy and time and something else could be a much bigger payoff.
Old dog stuff face. Yeah.
Yep.
I think one of my biggest fears is like ending a transaction, my client feeling like they were just a transaction.
Exactly.
Like that really bothers me that anybody might feel that way.
And knowing you, I highly doubt that anyone feels that at the end of the transaction. The question I would give them is, a year later, are they now questioning?
Yeah.
Did I really feel that way, or was that or was she making me feel that way because we were doing a transaction together? Because there was a paycheck for her at the end of it.
I think mine are kind of like that as far as like friendship during the transaction. Because we're like buddy the whole time and then it fizzles out.
And the truth is, it's impossible to keep that level of a relationship with that many people over time. It's impossible. But how do you systematically create these little spark moments beyond it that don't take you away from your current transaction? Because you have to show up for your clients you're serving now. But how do you create these little spark moments of, we're still in a relationship, these little moments of trust along the way systematically? Okay. So we've already touched on a couple of these. I'm just going to touch on a couple of them because I built the slides and Gladys will be mad at me if I don't show the slides. But in the end, we have to really think, what is a relationship? And I know we're talking about your real estate business, but I would encourage you to think about this just from a human standpoint. Like, even like, it's so interesting. You guys hear me say this a lot about, I'm learning to be a parent of teenage kids now. I can't expect the same relationship, my kids to have the same relationship with me when they were little and I'd get home and they'd want me to sit down and play Polly Pockets with them versus what they need from me now. I've got to evolve my relationship with them. I have to build trust a new way with them. Okay, so it's the same thing with the people in your databases. How are you building trust with them over time? The other word I think that we didn't touch on as much that I think is equally important in building a relationship is empathy. This comes down to, do they feel seen? Do they feel heard? Do they feel acknowledged? And people have a fear around being judged, or do I look stupid, or am I saying this wrong? Particularly when they're stepping into a space that they're not familiar with, especially when you're rattling off 1,000 acronyms and words because it's your vernacular, you're using it every day. The way you're saying it makes them assume they should know. Like all of those things, we don't do it in a way to make them feel lesser, but if we're doing it aggressively, like when we're, in some ways we're showing our expertise, but if you do it wrong, it's going to make them retreat from the relationship, not lean into the relationship. A lot of that's watching their reaction, their body language, the way that their eyes divert from you when you're saying something like, you should understand this, but you're not. So really exercising, building trust and exercising empathy to them as a person. And then, again, some of the best people I know in the industry are in this room, so I feel like I'm preaching to the choir a little bit. And maybe I'm talking to myself more than anybody here. But I think it's an opportunity for us to reflect on it beyond our arm reach relationships. Like it is so easy for me to get home at the end of the day and dote over my wife. Because she's right there and she does so much for me and I love spending time with her. However, what about the people that are more than an arm's length away? Like I can tell you I love them, but have I showed them recently? Like connected with them recently? Things being consistent. This is where I know we have every intention of building a relationship and providing value and loving on our people. But it almost throws this like weird red flag, and all of a sudden you're showing up in a big way, then you disappear again. Then after a while, you're like, I'm gonna make another run of this. Then you're showing up in a big way, then you disappear again. It's really thinking through how do I do this consistently and how is it sustainable for the number of people in my database? The truth is having 50 people in your database is not going to create a lifestyle for you moving forward. We have to increase the number of people in our database, and you have to touch them more, which means you have to have better systems, which I think you brought up systems earlier. We do need to be better at building systems, but not just any system, but the right systems, okay? Make it simple. Your database isn't a list of leads, it's a community you serve. I love this word, community. We talk a lot about CRM, we talk a lot about database, we talk a lot about how many followers you have on social media, and all those are important. To what end? The end is community. The end isn't the transaction. The end is, are you building a community? Think about what communities you're a part of. One, as I feel blessed that you guys are part of the KW culture in our community, you guys have a choice. Every single one of you, I'm not recommending this, by the way, every single one of you could send in a realms request this afternoon and choose a different brokerage. What you're choosing to be here for a reason. And what our job is to make sure that we're really leaning into that community piece and providing what you need. And by the way, any feedback you can give us, particularly when I'm asking you to recreate yourself, is we're working to recreate ourselves to be in alignment with what you need for the market we're going into. So again, any feedback we get there, it's the same thing with your people. I want you to start thinking about your database, your social media presence, your CRM, as all of these things are tools for me to build a community that stands for X. Are you clear on what your community stands for beyond just I offer excellent service through the transaction? Like, what do people feel being part of that community? Are they proud to be part of that community to where they want to tell people about you and what you're doing and invite people to your events? Okay. Any thoughts on this? Christy.
I would just say about building a community, I think the big thing is people want to feel like they belong to something. And, you know, seeing people like they are part of what they're doing, and they're, I guess, giving them some ownership too. But they want to feel a sense of belonging. Like people just want to belong somewhere, and they want to know that they're not alone. And so the more you can connect with that you see them and you're like, yeah, it's like, yeah, like under the hole, like what we have here, you know.
Yes, I love that. And I think that we all have an opportunity to do that with our databases. I was at a event called Future of Real Estate a couple weeks ago in San Diego, and I spoke with this really incredible woman who we just kind of passed by each other for a minute, and then got to that point where we were sitting here by each other and we're not really talking, so this is getting awkward, so let's open a conversation. And we talked, and it was her history and the stuff is really her whole history is really interesting. But one thing that she's built her whole database on is she holds these dinners at her house for other women that just want connection around like motherhood and business. Like I am a mom and I'm also in business. And she says it started with 6 people. She says, I've got like 450 women on that list now every month that I've got. It's like every month I've got to be like, I send out the invite of who's coming to the dinner this month. And then she's like, okay, I need a bigger venue. And she says they don't all come to all of them, but because I do them monthly, almost everyone in that list comes to at least 1 or 2 of them a year. And then they're saying, hey, can I bring my friend or can I bring my mom? And that's been her whole thing, is we do specifically that community, that conversation. And she's not selling her real estate services there. She's creating connection with people. So it's like thinking through that community piece in your database. One of the things that I want to challenge you to do, and we're talking a lot about the power of AI and what it can do in your business, is a lot of times the way I've really started to think about AI, and I know a lot of us love it for the fun stuff like roast this picture of me and things like that, which is fun. Use it for that, but don't lose sight of the bigger purpose of what it is. What it is my brain process, my thought process is limited to my experience. And there's somebody inside my brain, there's a little piece of my brain that is creative and pushing my mind forward. And then there's its ugly companion in there that will also be like, all right, reel it in, big guy. That's too scary, right? That's all happening inside my brain at the same time. The way I want you to start thinking about AI, and I've kind of defined AI for myself in 2 ways. One is, if I could take my brain, all the good pieces of my brain, and recreate it to think logically about something, how do I build AI to do that for me? And then the other way I'm thinking about AI is, I just lost what the second one was. Oh, as a co-pilot. So think about if you're flying a plane, or you're flying in a plane, think how grateful you are that there's a co-pilot in there to like double check things. There's checks and standards. And so I use AI a lot as a co-pilot as I'm going in, and I'm being very descriptive of what I've already taught it to say, this is where my brain's at. I'm thinking about this. What am I missing based on the overall knowledge base of my business, based on my mission statement, based on the UAR standards? Like, what am I missing on this? So using AI as a co-pilot is really important. So what we're talking about today is what I did with AI as a follow-up to this, is I went into my database or went into my ChatGPT that I built specifically for my real estate business. So it knows all my policies and procedures. It knows Arizona state law. It knows my target audience. It knows my mix of my database. And so I went in and asked it, I said, based on this specific portion of my database, and the one I think I did it for both pieces, but I think the one I'm going to show you is this tenant to buyer campaign. So renters between the ages of 25 and 35, mid to low income, probably young kids. Tell me what are their top 10 biggest concerns that they're worried about today. And it was interesting. It first gave me this list, which I slowed down on and thought about, like, are these true? Do I believe, just because AI is telling me this is the list does not make it true. It's, as a co-pilot, I've got to now say, okay, it's creating ideas for me. Is it true? So I can look at this and say, can we even afford to buy a home right now? Are most of my tenant buyers thinking that right now? Yes, that is absolutely true. How much do we need for a down payment, and are there programs to help? So I won't read all of these, but all of these were pretty relevant. And where my mind went was, how do I create opportunities to build trust with my clients around these things that they are thinking about today? But then something bothered me with this list in relation to our conversation. What bothered me with this list is because my assistant, my AI assistant is all built around real estate. It assumed that all I wanted was real estate related answers. And so I went back to it and I said, make it more personable, like beyond a real estate transaction. What are they worried about? Like what would be most relevant to them from a concern standpoint? And it came up with another list. And then it's like starting to look at the question behind the question. Are we falling behind? Like, because I'm 33 years old and I'm still renting a house, like, is it too late for me? Am I already behind from a wealth building standpoint? Will my kids have stability and a place to grow up? Like, man, I really would love to buy something because I've got 3 kids in one room and they're getting big. I don't know how long I can do this. Like, this is starting to get into the emotional connection of what my people are thinking, which just reading this is already started thinking through like, okay, if I go answer these questions for my client, I'm doing my job. But here, I'm making a human connection differently than I am on the left-hand side.
Number 9 is interesting.
I saw that too.
Am I doing this the smart way or just the popular way?
Because like, but like, that's true. So many people, that's just what they do now.
As an influencer phone too.
Yep.
So here's the question that, a couple of challenges that I want to leave you with today is I could tell by one, I want to thank you guys for leaning into the conversation. Like, it says a lot to me that you're playing with me. We grow together better this way. What I want to challenge you to do is actually, we're all busy. Schedule some time to flush this out for your business. Think about it. But this isn't the end of this exercise for me. This was the start of this exercise that I'm going to go through with my team, is now saying, okay, how do I take this and create conversations in my database without me waiting for them to call me to have the conversation? Is it do my newsletters, my social my social media conversations, our client outreach? Do all of these create this conversation of human connection differently than it does here on the left? More than likely, I'll still answer these questions as a result of doing this well. I'll still lead into some of these deeper questions, and then on the next level over would be actually providing my services to them. But I used to think we started here and trained to start here. Now we need to start connecting and starting here. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I guess that means that my slide presentation is over. Okay, we wrapped on time? Perfect timing. Do you have a sponsor?
We do, if you put the next slide after the
Oh.
thank you.
Thank you, and we do have a sponsor. Brian, come on up. Thank you. Thank you.
How's it going? Good. Well, for those that don't know me, I think I'm getting to know some of you. It's been a little while. There's a lot of agents, and so I look forward to getting to know all of you. But I'm Brian Miyazaki. I'm with Silverback Home Warranty. I know that a lot of you are familiar with us. A lot of you have used us since my last time here, and I really appreciate it. Sometimes I like to come in. I always try to talk about things that agents don't really know, because you've probably heard the spiel about Silverback. 3 plans, 450, 600, and 700, right? Okay, 700 includes outdoor sprinkler system coverage, but then there's some things that I like to talk about that can help you be better at what you're doing when working with your clients and explaining a home warranty. Okay, our number one goal is to provide everybody a great experience, right? Not just you, but your clients. We want them to, when they call up, when they have a claim, that it all goes smooth, that they love the process, that they want to renew year after year. There's a couple things that we do to help with that, but there's a couple things that we can ask of you to do as well. Number one, we have our free service call coupons. These are all the title companies, so their first service call is on us. Okay, we really want them to utilize the policy, have an experience with us. We also do our welcome phone call, where we can call and answer any questions that they might have about their plan. Okay, but as agents, I think the best way you can make sure that everything goes smoothly is by understanding a few things. The times that we run into issues, and we love to be transparent, and we're working on some tools where you'll be able to log in, see all the claims that your clients have filed. You'll get notification when the claim is filed. That way you can reach out to them as a touch point throughout the year. It's going to make you look really good that way. And so those should be coming out in the next couple months. I'm excited for that. But I think that the times where we maybe have some times that aren't, are tough is pre-existing conditions. So we are wanting to go out and educate agents on what's not going to be covered under home warranty. Pre-existing condition is probably the hardest one, right? So if it's not working when they move in, it's not going to be covered, unfortunately. And that's why getting the home inspection is very important as agents, because if they move in and it's within the first couple of days of moving in and they open up a claim, we probably will ask to see the home inspection. If you have a home inspection that says it's in working condition, then a lot of times that gives them ammo to be able to you know, to say, hey, it was working and that's why I'm here and I can get involved and work with Jason, our claims team, to get things covered. Okay, and then first time use, you know, that's also a time where we might ask for a home inspection. But usually when we need the home inspection is within the first few weeks. After that, we really don't ask for it that much. So, but as agents, I think that's the number one thing. If you want your clients to have a good experience, make sure that as you're doing the home inspection, as you're looking through the home, if you see something that's not working, address that before the close of the home, or at least make sure that your clients understand that a home warranty is not going to be there to fix that item that's not working when they move in. But yeah, any questions at all about Silverback? Yes.
Do you do other states?
Right, we're just in Utah, but we cover from Logan down to St. George. Rural areas are a little bit unique where we don't necessarily have contractors that might go to those areas. If it's a really rural area, we are still happy to have a coverage on it, but they might have to find the contractor, get us the license and insurance information, but we're still happy to cover it. Yeah.
So if you have a client that, let's say, in the winter month,
Uh-huh.
instead,
Good question. Yeah.
so you have no idea if it's functioning correctly
Uh-huh.
until
Yeah.
the end of the year.
Yeah.
How can something like that work?
Yeah.
I want to inspection them, but that's not in the business.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's a great question. And so we consider all those that weren't able to be inspected because of the weather conditions as being in working condition. Unless you go in there and it's disconnected or there's evidence that, you know, obvious something was not working, right? But we'll take those as all being in working condition. Yeah, great question. Anything
How long
else?
have you been around?
We've been around about 7 years now. So, yeah, out of Lehigh. Perfect. Well, great. I appreciate it. I've got our flyers out there. Also coupons are out there. But if you have any other questions, just let me know. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks, everybody. Thanks again, Marcus. That was awesome. I want to get one little quick, because I feel like it fits so nicely into today's meeting. But on Mondays, we do a Monday power up. And Kaylee actually did the power up on Monday, and it was all about, if you had a billboard, what would your billboard say about you that was different than what it would say about Mikhail or Claudia or whatever. And you